And we are live. What's up? What's up? What's up? Welcome to another episode of SBP, the Shutter Better podcast. So today I'm extremely excited to have another CEO slash startup CEO drop some pure knowledge on overall education and entrepreneurship. So if you don't know Tomiwa, I'd say you're probably living under a rock since he is an aspiring TikTok star. More on that later. He's also one of the Ivy graduates that I really respect. And more importantly, he is the CEO of Atila, which is a company that helps students pay for college. And no, it is not OnlyFans. But nonetheless, Tomiwa, welcome to the show, man. How's it going, bro?
Thank you for having me, man. I'm doing good.
So just for context, just so the audience kind of has a little bit of an idea, how long have we kind of known each other for?
Is it just maybe like 29,
Maybe only a
2020?
few years or something,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I think did we meet in an ethics class or we knew each other before that?
I think it was ethics class.
Yeah, good times. I remember that. We did our presentation on the genetics.
Yeah. I think it was CRISPR.
CRISPR gene editing, yep.
Yeah, clustered interspace. No, okay, I forget what it's called. I remember the part I had for our presentation. That's probably about it. But it was a really good, really thought provoking presentation. I hope maybe some of the group members are gonna watch this. So how's it going, guys? But yeah, man. I think we also played a little bit of soccer together. You'd also keep me in check anytime I wouldn't be passing the ball, so you'd yell at me, which was always good. I deserve that, by the way. Fully deserved it. So obviously, I'm really excited to have you on. You're like somebody I really look up to. You're a very good speaker, and you also do things for the greater good. I've taken a look at your blog. I've taken a look at some of the things you've been doing, and it's very obvious that you're a very charismatic person who likes making a change in the world. But before we get a little bit into your life and kind of your journey, I wanted to take this time to make it a little bit more lighthearted for the audience. I'm introducing a little new segment. I can see you smiling because
Yeah, I know what's coming.
I know you know what's coming. But I want to know your worst ever first date. I think this would be a really good way to kind of get into the groove of things. And it's a new segment I'm kind of trying out for the audience. So, worst first date. Go
All
ahead.
right. So I think fortunately, all my first dates have been actually pretty good, and not because like anything special. I think like I don't know, like people. I'm kind of rolling my eyes for what I'm about to say, but I feel like I tend to like try to pick people that I think like personality wise will vibe. So like even if it doesn't go well, like it's not a bad first date. It's just like more like we just didn't vibe. But to answer your question, I remember one time I went on a good date with this lady, and then she was so I think I asked her the question like, okay, like who's someone that you think is like really interesting, and like who's someone interesting that you want to like have like you could.
Dude, I was going to ask you that later in this interview.
So then we can still get to that because I think I'll tell you why I think maybe I'll learn from my response. But anyways, like who's someone like exciting you want to have a conversation with, and then so I'm like, oh, so I asked her like, okay, who's someone you want to have a conversation with, like you think is interesting and smart, and she said AOC. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can still hear you.
Okay, she said AOC, Alexandria Ocasio Cortez. For people who don't know, she's a politician in America, and she tends to be more on the left leaning side. So she's more on like the socialist side, billionaires, tax the rich, all that kind of stuff. And then I know who she is. And then so when the girl said AOC, I was like, okay, cool. I asked her some follow-up questions. Said, oh, like, and she asked me, okay, who would you pick? And then I said, oh, Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk. And then like I didn't.
That's a good option.
Yes, but so here's something I realized, right? It's like it's hard to pick someone that's universally liked. So even like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk, who I used to think that everyone likes, it turns out there's a lot of people that really dislike Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos. And anyway, so I said Jeff Bezos, and then we got into this whole debate about socialism versus capitalism. And like my thing is that like, I think socialism and capitalism is just we're just like debating like nuances. Like anyway, so my point. Well, anyways, the long story short, from that point onwards, he tried to basically convince me that being a billionaire is bad and being wealthy is bad. And then
my god, man! I don't know if you've seen those posts, but I saw like an Instagram post where somebody did math horribly wrong, and it was like Jeff Bezos has $121 billion in the whole world. That means he could give $1 billion to all the 7 billion people in the world. I'm like, no, that's not how math works. But a lot of people hate Elon Musk too, because apparently he's not very family oriented. He's all work. And obviously I can't attest to this because I don't know Elon Musk, but even if somebody has bad qualities, where in your case, you were only looking at the good qualities of these people, which is you don't think too much about it, right? Like, man, I think they're super influential people. They're super motivated, inspirational people. So it's a little tough to get into the debates like that. So
And that's my other, what were you gonna say?
Did you make her split the bill?
No. I always pay. I always offer to pay.
You're a gentleman. Man, I've been on dates before where I just think like, you know what? I'm having such a bad time. I might as well just split the bill. But yeah, man, go ahead.
Yeah, man, I wouldn't do that. I would not do that. Like if she like insisted on paying, of course I'd let her pay. But like I always pay the bill. And also the other thing I was gonna say is, and I think you said about debating. I think the thing that got me on the Jeff Bezos thing was that like you know when you like after the you sort of reflect, I was like, it really did not matter. Like I feel like one thing that comes soon to realize is a lot of stuff that people get very heated and like passionate about, like, you know, is Jeff Bezos, like, should billionaires exist? Like it's one of those things that okay, it's fun to debate and like have heated opinions about, but like, okay, like what are we really trying to get at? So are we trying to get at like, you know, like, well, billionaires shouldn't exist because people can't afford a living wage? Okay, well, we can have that conversation. I think maybe we should probably pay people better. But, you know, I'm basically my point is like we were just debating something I felt like was so irrelevant to like the date and like getting to know each other, and like it was like I fell for the trap basically because like we just wasted so much time debating that.
Oh man, that is 100% a trap. It's like those questions that mean nothing. Like, oh, how many brothers and sisters do you have? This like stuff that, okay, that's not necessarily a bad question, but it's just those questions don't really go in a certain direction of getting to know the person. I mean, of course, maybe knowing if she likes Jeff Bezos or not sort of does get you to know her political side. But I feel like anytime politics comes up, exactly. I made a rule for myself where it's just like, oh, why are you trying to kill the vibe, man?
Especially because when I think another big thing about politics too is that when people have political opinions, they're basically people are tying their identity to their political beliefs. So it's like if someone says, "Oh, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, liberal, conservative," you know, the idea that liberals are more nice types of people, conservatives are more mean type of people, and you know, like there's all these kind of stereotypes, whatever. And I think the problem, and then so that it's also, and also it's like you think of all the conservatives or all the liberals on Twitter that you dislike, and then you ascribe that personality to the person that you're meeting. The problem, so this is why I say like you don't, but in an ideal world though, you should only let someone know your political beliefs once they've gone to know who you are. Because like, oh, okay, I know Tomiwa, he's a nice person, and even though he might have this political belief that I don't agree with, I know that his heart's in the right place. I know that he means well, right? But when you meet someone for the first time, you don't know if their heart is in the right place. You don't know if they mean well. So then, if they have a political belief that you disagree with, you all of a sudden now think that, well, if they believe this, then they probably are not going to be compatible with me. But that's not actually the case.
Oh, dude, I agree 100%. I've always found that interesting. But first dates, bro, like politics, no. For any of you listening, politics, no. Drop it. It's not.
And you know, I'll say one more thing. I think maybe the reason why people like to, and I think the reason why people think politics is a good filter for dates is because values. It helps you know if you're aligned on values. But I actually don't think that. Like I don't know, but I'm suspicious about the idea that if two people disagree politically, they have different values. I think a lot of times too, what politics is basically people interpreting life in different ways, right? So two people, like for example, like, you know, me and the lady or me and the girl, I don't know what the correct term is, but you know, the person I went on a date, the person I went on a date with, right? It's like I think she was probably saying that, well, you know, I'm like anti-billionaire, you're pro-billionaire, I guess is what she was saying. That means you probably have different views on life. But it's like, I don't think that's necessarily the case, right? Like, because she was talking about how income inequality is a big problem. I'm like, dude, I think Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos are good people, but I also think income inequality is a problem. You know, I believe in universal healthcare. I believe in free education.
You started a startup on essentially getting education.
Exactly. So I think that, like, yeah. So like in terms of first date topics, I think definitely you want to be aligned on values, but I actually don't necessarily think people need to have the same political beliefs in order for you to like have a good relationship. But also, I was going to say something too. I think that starting with like bad first date is fun, but I think we should try to be optimistic and talk about good first dates. So maybe, do you want to talk about maybe a good first date that you had?
A good first date. The best first date I ever went on, I definitely have to say I got on a squash pretty recently. So I took somebody out to play squash because they said, "Oh, you play squash? Like let's go try that out." And it was just really fun because I thought like it was just like we were playing an activity. It was a sport, right? And it was getting there's a little competitiveness to it. Obviously, I let her win, but then she somehow beat me in the end. You know who you are, by the way. But I don't know. I feel like those dates where you're doing something and
Mm.
then you can go grab drinks, or then you can go grab like finger food after. I think those are the best because then it's less.
Yeah, I was gonna say agree exactly what you said. Doing something, right? Because I think some of my best first dates, or my just best dates in general, have been like when we did an activity. So like I'm, my sisters always make fun of me because I kind of have like a playbook that I. kind of do regularly, which is
Like Barney from How I Met Your Mother.
because it's because like I don't know. I feel like for the first dates, it's like you don't know if they like you don't know if you like them. It's better
Yeah,
to
you,
just
you can't invest all this time and energy on both of your sides, right?
so usually like maybe a second date, or if it's someone that like I've already known from before, and then we're doing like maybe like let's say someone like I've already known before as just friends. Like I already know who you are. We know each other. We know our friends, family, all that kind of stuff. So like it's not much like a first date, but like first like real official date. Rock climbing, you know.
Rock climbing. Oh, dude, rock climbing is so. Dude, the people who are good at rock climbing, man, like they don't look like they're strong, but they
Mhm.
are ridiculously strong.
And the reason I like rock climbing is for a couple of reasons. I like activities where you can't be bad at it as long as you try. Right. So
I'm
like
bad at it.
so I feel like with rock climbing, like so you what I'm saying is like you can select how hard it's going to be, right? So some rock climbing you just climb up the wall, whatever, and that's actually like pretty easy. If you can use your legs to push you up, it's pretty relatively easy. Um, then of course you say okay, only touch the blue ones or only touch the red ones. So I think activities where you're doing something so that way like a lot of the nervous energy is like dissipated by like the physical movement. And also like you also want things where like you have a chance to talk to people, right? So it's like movies is terrible because you can't talk to the person.
Oh, that's the worst. You're like, oh, do I put my arm around her? Do I
Yeah.
not? Do I?
And I think it, yeah, I think also, yeah, that's the other thing too. Cause I think with movies, it's a bit too intimate too for a first date. But like, also rock climbing, it's like in a public place. You can talk, you can yell. I also like paint like arts. So maybe you go like a pottery class, a paint class. Those are some good dates as well.
Cooking a meal together is a good one
Cooking is a good
too.
one. Yep.
Because like then you're like a team, you know, it's like a teamwork
And you're
thing.
completing a project together. Like you're being a task.
Exactly. Then in her mind, she's subconsciously thinking, "Oh, this guy's a hubby right here. Like maybe it could be foreshadowing something later, you know." But yeah, that's that's a nice topic about dates. So obviously, you are the CEO. I guess we can call you that, or the founder of Atila. So I know that it's kind of this company that bridges the gap between students who want to fund their education and people who want to also help fund education for other students, kind of bridge that gap. So can you kind of give us like a 1 to 2 minute intro on how you sort of got into Atila and what the inspiration for that was?
September 2016, I'm in my HBA1 class at Ivy Business School at Western University. Super excited. First best business school in Canada, better than Queen's. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
super excited. I'm doing the software engineering business dual degree. So I'm super, super, and this is something I've been working towards since like grade 11. So, I get in the program. I enjoy it. The profs are great. The students are great. My classmates, everything is awesome. Alumni is amazing. Great out job opportunities. Fast forwarding now to January 2020, I'm looking at my bank account, and maybe I'll actually send you a picture and you can put it up on the screen. Yeah, I don't know how you want to do the post prop, but you put it up on the screen. And so
I'll figure away. I'll figure
yeah,
away.
and it's on the website. If you go to Atila.ca/about, you can find the picture there. So there's a picture of my TD bank statement, and I see $63,000. And I'm thinking to myself, and here's the thing: so 63,000, that's not how much money I have. That's my line of credit. So I
Oh my
haven't even graduated university yet. I'm still in school. I haven't even graduated yet, and I'm already $63,000 in debt, right? And so I'm like, how am I going to pay for this? This is ridiculous. Like, like I'm entering adults, I'm entering the next phase of my life. If I was starting life broke, $0, that'd have been okay. Zero, fine. I just work my way up. But starting life, -$63,000 behind the starting line really kind of annoyed me. And so I did the same thing they always tell you to do. I got part-time jobs, I did scholarship, I did all that kind of stuff, but it still wasn't enough. And this is not just a me problem, right? Like I'm not going to start a problem I'm not going to start a company just to scratch my own itch. If you look at the numbers, Statistics Canada, you look at the data, I spend a lot of time looking at this. The average student with loans is graduating $28,000 in debt. And I'm looking, obviously, this is a huge problem for me. It's a huge problem for a lot of other people as well. And, as an engineer, you're an engineer too. So, it's like whenever you see a problem, you're like, okay, this is a problem. There's definitely a better way. Let me build a better way to solve the whole student loan problems. And I call it Atila.
That's crazy, man. Because I read this like crazy stat where well, it wasn't really a stat, but it was more like a statement where the fact that tuition costs are just going up and up and up, the loans, like the loans of which you get from the bank are also going up. So in a way, they've kind of made school more expensive. So do you kind of think that like tuition, I guess now is getting more like it's something that you have to do, or do you think like the value of it is kind of dropping because it's just so expensive?
Mm, that is a deep question. I've actually done a lot of research work into the space. Um, and actually, let me do a plug because this is actually a relevant plug. I have a website, educationfreedomprogram.org, where I sort of talk about the problems I see with the education system and my solutions to solve it, et cetera, et cetera. So yeah, maybe if you can link that in the description as well, because I think that would be
Definitely.
relevant. And essentially, what it came down to was, so basically, the question is university worth it or is post-secondary worth it? It depends. I know nobody likes the answer because everyone knows it depends. It depends on what. Okay, so what I talked about in that video is right. So I made a video on YouTube called "Open the Gates of Education Freedom," and maybe you can also link this. Maybe you can link it like somewhere as well.
I'll
And
put
it,
it somewhere. Yeah.
and in that video, I basically talk about the fact that why do you go to school? Oh, I go to school to learn. No, you don't. Saying you go to school to learn is like saying you go to the club because you like the music. It's not a lie.
Oh, bro, dude, so many people like like use that as an excuse. Like, oh yeah, I just go to the clubs for the music. I don't care about meeting people there, man. Like it's all about the music.
Yeah, so like it's not so much that it's a lie, but it's an incomplete truth. Because yes, you like the music, but there's other things there you like as well, right? Meeting your friends, maybe have a couple of beverages, all that kind of stuff.
Of course.
Meeting new people, etc. So, and it's the same way with school, right? So we say we go there for an education, for knowledge, and it's not necessarily a lie, but it's one of the four reasons, right? So Scott Galloway, Brian Kaplan, Robin Hanson talks a lot about this, and I have some ideas that I basically say that I think there's four reasons why we go to university. And I think so. Wait, I want to make sure I'm not going off topic. I tend to go on tangents, but especially when it's a topic I'm super passionate about. But your question was like, is tuition worth it? Is university worth it? Okay, so I'm answering that question. So, okay, so why do we go to university? There's four reasons. One is education. We kind of already know that. Two is like signaling. So I got into Ivy Business School, best business school in Canada. Therefore, I'm probably smart. Things like that. Three is credentialing, right? So similar to you, I have an iron. Let me get my iron ring. 1 second.
Oh, I'm wearing it. I'm wearing it right now. Oh, you got to get that on here so the fans can see. The fans, the audience.
I have two rings here. This is my Ivy ring, and this is my. You can see the Ivy thing here, and
Oh,
you can
which one
see
looks
my.
better? The Ivy one probably looks way better. Oh, okay. I see where the tuition money went.
Yeah. So I don't wear it that often, but then that's another reason why people go to university, right? Because first, credentialing, right? So iron ring would be like credentialing, which is basically saying, I mean, I don't have my PN, but like I'm an official engineer, so there's certain, like if you're a civil or chemical engineer, there's certain jobs that only a civil engineer can do. The other reason is networking, or what I like to call invite only hinge. So I know we were talking about first dates earlier on, and if you think about universities as a way for not just romantic relationships, but also for platonic relationships, right? Think about a university as an invite only dating app. So you look at a school like Ivy Business School, right? Where if you're getting to Ivy Business School, you're probably relatively smart, driven, wealthy, and you likely want to be friends with, work with, and even date and marry people that are that similar socioeconomic status. And so what it's like, I don't know if you know what Raya is.
Rhea? I haven't heard of that. No.
Okay, so Raya is a dating app for people that are verified on Twitter and Instagram.
Really?
Yeah, so you can think of universities as like that too, right? So that like most people who are, of a certain IQ level, of a certain geographic, certain socioeconomic status, want to probably work with, marry, mate with people of that similar socioeconomic status. And that's what university does. And so the question is, okay, is university worth it? Well, it depends what you want to get out of life. If you want to be friends with people that are of a similar high status, want to work with these kind of people, then currently right now, universities, like if you're a super driven person and you're really strong at computers and you're 17 years old and you want to meet other people who are really good at computers, you probably have to go to University of Waterloo because that's where all the smart computer kids are in Canada, right? Same way if you know that like I'm super into math, I want to marry someone that's a similar math like me, really smart, probably want to go to school like that too. Same thing with signaling, credentialing, right? So when you go into, like, I was even thinking about signaling the other day, right? Where like you see this a lot with like maybe like top law firms and investment banks, right? Where the job requirement really is just like someone who can just grind. But when you're an investment bank and you're trying to pitch a new client, or when you're even a venture capitalist and you're trying to, or you're an startup person trying to pitch a venture capitalist, and you say, look, this is our management team, and this is so and so when he's a Harvard Business School alumni, that signaling effect is super powerful, right? So when you say, so and I talk about this more in Education Freedom Program because the fact that university is so expensive bothers me a lot, and I have a lot of ideas on how we can solve this. And we can maybe talk about that more earlier on, but I don't want to talk too long. But the gist of what I'm just trying to say is that, is university worth it? If you're paying for just education, then no, because you can get education anywhere, like on YouTube. Like I learn more on YouTube and Googling stuff and reading books, right? But then again, university, you're not just paying for education, you're paying for the full package. And also the fact that still, education still so to answer your question, it depends. But you should probably break down what you're trying to get out of university and see if you can get those little chunks in different places.
Yeah, man. And it's crazy because I know you had this whole kind of story where you were thinking about, I read a little bit about you, obviously, about how you were trying to you were thinking about dropping out. I think you like came back to the office like 4 or 5 times because you're like, no, I'm going to drop out. No, I'm not. No, I'm going back in. No, I'm not. And this is something I've gone through too. But um, how can you kind of go into that experience of like dropping out, the stigma of dropping out, and like how you kind of like what kind of backlash did you get from that? Because I imagine like friends and family, and also the fact that me and you are both come from immigrant parents. There's a big stigma of dropping out because they come from these other countries where Western education is really really highly looked upon. So can you kind of go into all the backlash you sort of received and that whole experience?
That's a very good question. How can I answer this in a concise way?
Oh, I go, dude, go off.
Okay. Yeah, because I have a lot of thoughts on this. So I think the first thing is, yes, a lot of backlash, immigrant parents, also not just immigrant, but I'm also the firstborn, also the only son. So like for those of you who are in a similar situation, you can relate. It's like your parents really sacrificed, well, I don't want to put sacrifice, but anyway, your parents really sort of put a lot of their hopes and dreams on you. And then, so, of course, my parents did not take it well at all. And, case where like you doubt yourself too. Like, and like the story was the whole dropping out thing was that so first of all, I should probably add that like when like even Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, all these people, I think that when you quote unquote drop out of school, usually what it is that you say you're taking a year off, right? You take like a year, you defer for a year. And then that year you're trying to see, okay, like this thing I'm trying to do, can it take off? And at the end of the year, you then say, okay, do I want to go back or do I want to just like drop out completely? So that's what I did. I signed a paper. And but the thing is, and this is one other thing too, where I think the education system could do a way better job is like, more support for entrepreneurs, more support for people who want to do a different path. Right. So I said I wanted to take a year. And again, it's not just to take a year off school to just like do nothing. I want to take a year off, work at a company, do internships. Like I even went to my dean and be like, hey, I will go and find a technical, like, so my plan was to take a year off school and start a TL and see what I could do in the next year. And if it's not making money after 4 months, I was just going to get an internship. So I went to the dean of I went to the dean, both in Western and both in Ivy. And I was like, okay, I have a proposal, right? Like, why didn't I just instead of me just saying I'm dropping out, like I tried to do this in a very systematic way, right? Instead of me being I'm dropping out and I'm taking, like, why didn't I just say I'm going to take a year long course where basically the course is entrepreneurship, but it's not one of those like fake entrepreneurship where like you're reading about in a textbook. I'm doing entrepreneurship by doing it, right? So and I was like, look, I will make all the I will cross my I's, or I'll cross my T's and dot my I's, right? So I'll find a supervisor both like in the industry and like a school supervisor. I'll put together a learning curriculum. I can do projects, I can do deliverables, I can do all this stuff. And to long story short, they basically said no, sorry, you can't do it. So I had to drop, well, not drop, I forget what it is, but I had deferred for a year for what, and I talked to a lot of people, deferred for a year for some reason. My OSAP went into repayment, so I like started paying back my OSAP, even though I'm only like, I think at the time I wasn't even in school, or I just got an internship. And my parents were like, my friends were like, Tomer, what are you doing? Da, 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 da. But you know what? Like long story short, yes, it was a very stressful period, but I think for me, no regrets, and not just no regrets. And like I get maybe in life, I think we're all human, so we do have regrets. But I think the key point I'm trying to get at is I'm glad I went through that experience for a couple of reasons. One, it gave me more confidence in following my heart. I know follow your heart is very cliche advice, but I feel so, especially for young people, so often in life, you hear different people telling you different things to the point that you sometimes know what you want to do, but you're like questioning, like, is that even what I want to do? Like I remember when I was in undergrad and I was going to McKinsey and Bain info sessions. And again, nothing against these companies. These are great companies. Like these are actually amazing companies to work for, especially the more I get,
yeah.
The more I realize, but I feel like that's not what I wanted at that time. Right. Like I knew I wanted to go into tech, but I was like, man, like I'm paying all this money in tuition, like they make, so I was doubting my own, like I knew what I wanted to do, but I was doubting my own goals because all my friends wanted to go into McKinsey and Bain. And I feel like even with the dropping out for a year thing, like it made so much sense to me, but I was like, am I really making the right choice? And I think the fact that I made that decision and I sort of like made the best of it made me basically give me the confidence that next time I make a decision, regardless of what other people think, if I think from first principles and like if I have a deep sense of conviction, or not even a deep sense of conviction, it's like I just feel a gut feeling, I think this is what is best for me, I'm going to do it anyway, right? So I think sometimes in life, like just doing things that are very like stressful and making out alive is like one of the best ways to just build confidence in yourself.
Oh, dude, I 100% agree. Like, yeah, the saying, "Oh, follow your heart, do what you love, follow your passion," is very cliche, but really the make or break period, I think, is always going to be there. No matter what big decision you make, I feel like you're always just going to have people, like you probably still have people who think like, I can't believe Tomiwa dropped out like that. But the main make or break period, I think, is within that short term. And once you did that, did you kind of have more confidence?
100%. And one thing I was going to add too is that for a lot of maybe type A or driven or ambitious people, there's this sense of following the, it's sort of like is it climbing the ladder or following the predefined path where like everyone around you is sort of
You're
doing the
more
same.
poetic than me, bro.
Everyone is sort of doing the exact same thing. Okay, get into a top school for 4 years, then get a job at like a really prestigious company, do that for 2 years, then pivot to a different company or go to business school for 2 years and go. And the thing is, there's actually nothing wrong with this path. Like I've been looking a lot. Like the competition is very good, exit opportunities are very good. So these things are all great, but I think there's like it's hard to I can't really put. Oh, I can't really like find the word to express it, but there's something very beautiful and very liberating, empowering about doing something that, because what most people do actually, I think a lot of like type A people, what they do is they find someone who has what they want. Okay, so this person right now this person is the founder, or this person just raised $3 billion in a Series A round of a company in the health tech space. I want to start a company in the health tech space. Okay, so they went to Princeton for 4 years. Then they worked at Facebook as a PM, or they worked. Okay, then they did Goldman Sachs. Then they did this. Okay, okay. So if I just do that same step, then I can probably get to that point too. And like again, on a risk adjusted basis, like one thing I'm trying not to do, I try not to be cynical and like dismissive of what people are doing, because there's a reason why a lot of people go that path. Because I think on a risk adjusted basis, you more or less average out to like a good 6-figure, 7-figure salary kind of thing. But I think there's something to be said of just being unconventional, not even being unconventional, just having conviction in your beliefs, where it's like, this is what I believe. People around me are not doing it, but I believe it, so I'm just gonna go for it anyway.
Dude, I'm so happy you brought that up, because this is something I do too. Like, I'm like, oh, Elon Musk grew up in South Africa. He went to Queen's University. I think he went to like UPenn or Penn State or University of Pennsylvania. And I don't know how the schools work in the States. It's kind of, there's like state schools and there's like University of whatever state that is. And apparently that's like a private school, whatever. I'm going on a tangent right now. But I do feel that like a lot of people just kind of go, oh, he went this way, then he went here, maybe I'll do the same thing. And really, I think it's just they're not really confident in their own path or their own belief, right? And I can't really blame them for that, because it's hard to have confidence, especially like if you're thinking of dropping out of school or a lot of things are going on. It's tough to have that confidence. But what was kind of your approach to starting Atila? Because I think a lot of people become like really profits driven, like, oh yeah, let me make this money. 4-hour Tim Ferriss, like 4-hour work week. Have you read that book, by the way?
I think I have. Yes, yes, I have.
Very good book, but everyone thinks like, oh, that might be the shortcut to getting rich, starting a company. And then they get so profits driven that it just feels super long, and then they don't do it. And it's actually pretty sad. So what was your approach? I imagine that you didn't go down the path of being too profits driven, right?
So a couple of things. You raised up a lot of good points. So the first thing is the Tim Ferriss 4-Hour Work Week. I've actually read that book before, and it's funny because when you read that book, actually, he's in the book. Ferriss is basically optimizing for freedom and flexibility and not money, right? So it's like, actually, if you follow the steps in the 4-Hour Work Week, you might actually make less money, but you probably have more free time. I think that's something that's super important to keep in mind. In terms of optimizing for profits with Atila, I'm taking a very, very long-term view. And this is something that like I like to repeat, because as a reminder to myself, because it's easy to say, it's hard to do. And so like the best example of this is that the first 2 years I did Atila, I spent $2,000 on the company and made $0. And not only did I make $0, I had no business model. Like we didn't even have like if someone came to say, Tomiwa, I love Atila, I want to give you $1,000, we had no like monetization on the site whatsoever. We at one point we tried to do like $9 a month, but like I didn't even promote it that much. I was like, this doesn't make sense, but I feel like I needed to do something. And so so a couple of key takeaways from that point was first of all is the idea that learning. I think companies are actually very underrated. I almost want to say it's an excuse to learn while pretending you're doing something, or not even pretend while you're actually doing something. Because what I'm saying is that when you graduated from university, like a lot of people like school because there's a well-defined problem and all that kind of stuff. And it's hard to like actually it's hard to find like meaningful learning opportunities once you've graduated, unless you pick up like a trivial, like I'm going to learn a new language or learn to play an instrument, which is nothing wrong with that. But I feel like if you're like a type, and I keep on using type A, but I feel like if you just want to make an impact on the world, you want to learn a skill that's actually going to be useful. And not that learning a new language, or actually I have a theory that learning a new language is a waste of time unless it's English, but that's a different story for another day.
Really?
I think AI is going to eat everything up, man. I think learning a new language is
machine learning,
kind of a waste of
AI,
time.
deep learning is the future. I'm actually learning Spanish on Duolingo, by the way. So you threw a little shade at me there.
And the reason why I think it's a waste of time is because let's say it takes you 4 years to become fluent, right? I think in 4 years, real-time AI translation is going to be so good that if you go to Mexico or Barcelona, and you're speaking to people in Spanish, they're just gonna have a chip in their ear or whatever. Like that's happened when I went to Barcelona or Madrid and I was in an Airbnb. We were just using Google Translate to talk to each other, and it's not perfect, but at the rate of which AI is going, in 4 years' time, it's just gonna be real-time translation between both parties. And also time value of money, right? Or your time has a cost. So that let's say you spend 4 or 5 hours a week learning a second language on Duolingo. You could spend those 4 hours just like learning how to code or learning how to make graphic design, right? Which would probably give you a better ROI than learning Spanish.
That's a good point. I might have to cancel.
I mean, do what works best for you, but I would say like seriously, man, consider if there might be a better use of your time. It's up to you though. But the point I was trying to get at though is what were we talking about again?
Spanish AI. Wait, Spanish AI. Oh yeah, profits driven.
Yeah, so being profits driven, thinking long term. Yeah, so I think the key thing I was thinking, so I was just saying like basically companies as an excuse for learning, right? Which is that I think for the kind of person I am, people who are my tip-top personality, you're really big on self-improvement. How can I do better? How can I learn every day? And I think I think starting a company is one of the best ways to just learn at a really rapid rate, and you're learning a skill that is actually tangible and actionable to whatever you want to do in the future, and there's like an actual product, right? So like if you learn how to make music, you're making music just to keep yourself busy. If you learn how to cook, I learned how to cook too, and like it's good, it's a utility. But I think we learn, like for example, like right now I have interns and like I have a team, right? So even like books that I'm reading, like one second, let me get a book. 1 second.
Let's see this. I'm a big self-improvement guy too, so I was actually gonna ask you a little bit about the books, but yeah, let's.
So there's 2 books I'm reading right now. One is called The Great CEO Within by Matt McCary.
Hey, the average CEO guys read 60 books per year. Remember that.
And the other one is To Sell Is Human. And so here's the thing. This reason why I bring these books up, right, is that like I've read books like this before in the past, but I think one thing that's super cool when you start a company is that you're reading books and then you have a problem that you're applying their knowledge towards. One more thing.
Oh, we're getting another book here. I think I know which book this is gonna be. I'm trying to guess which book I think it'll be.
Oh, this is not a book. This is notes, but you can guess what other books I have around my apartment.
The Barack Obama one.
Oh yeah, you saw that one on my Instagram, didn't you?
I did.
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So here is Do you see my LinkedIn or my Instagram?
I think I might have seen it on your TikTok.
Oh yeah. So okay, anyway, these are just basically my book notes, right? And the reason why I'm bringing all this stuff up is that I think another thing that's super cool about starting a company is that you have like a lot of people like me that read a lot, right? But the things you just have knowledge for the sake of knowledge, and you don't actually retain a lot of the information you've learned as well. But when I'm reading this book, like The Great CEO Within, and I'm saying, oh, he's saying here about writing down what people tell you. Like he has a thing in here about how when two people have a conflict or whatever, you should basically have both parties write down what each person's saying to basically so that we can sort of see. Or I'll give you a better analogy. He says that if you have to say something more than twice, write it down. I'm like, oh, this is like in the meetings when people ask me the same problem twice and I repeat it over and over again. I should just open up a Google Doc, send them and write down what I told them and just send it to them, share it with both participants kind of thing. So what I'm saying is that when you read all these books and then you have like a problem that you're applying it towards, you retain the information better. And I'm not going off tangent. This is all back to the original point of how was I able to, think long-term with Atila. One is that monetization and making a lot of money is one of my goals, but it's not my only goal. And it may not even be my most important goal. All right. So the other thing too is I think enjoying the process. So I think one of the reasons why I was able to go 2 years without making any money from Atila is because I was learning a lot and I was actually having fun. Right. So I was doing things I enjoyed. So it's like when you're doing things you enjoy, it's like, you know what? Like if I spend $2,000 to have fun over the last years and I built something useful, it's like, you know what? It's like tuition. It's like a course, right? If you're paying like 28 grand in tuition, $2,000 for a course, that's actually a pretty good investment. But yeah, again, I'm thinking long term. Right? People talk about lifestyle company. I'm trying to make Atila a lifetime company. So if I'm thinking of a lifetime to optimize for impact, and how can I help as many people as possible?
That's interesting, man. I was actually going to ask you how you were thinking of like growing Atila later down the line, but I guess you kind of answered that right there. But
actually, one more thing actually on that point is that with all that being said, though, one thing I should have and could have and wish I'd done a better job of is I wasn't disciplined enough about thinking about how to actually make Atila make money, right? So even though I said Atila went 2 years without making money, I don't want to pretend like that was by design. That was by bad decision making because I just didn't understand what the business model was with Atila. I wasn't disciplined enough. So that's why like now I'm reading this book to sell as human because I need to learn how to do sales, right? I was having too much fun building and writing code and doing this and doing that. I didn't put enough time. It's like how am I gonna make money? How am I gonna sell this thing? And so I'm saying this because, yeah, even though I did 2 years without making money, like kind of don't do what I did or maybe do what I did, but also make sure you think a lot about monetization and actually sales and things like that.
Oh, dude, I 100% agree with you. I think we have a lot of overarching opinions here. One of them is that you have to have a solid foundation before you start marketing. Like the people who just think like, oh, fancy sales page, oh, great marketing team, but they don't actually have any real product, or like every product is like an add-on of like another product, but then you don't really know what you're actually buying. Then you're like, oh my freaking God. Like those, man, is that I think it's so important to have like a giving good value straight up. And going back to your point about starting without really just having fun with it, that's the way you start, right? Like that's the way you learn. Now you're reading books to invest a little bit in yourself and learn more about the sales sides of things. For me personally, I've always been more of a sales guy. I haven't really been a very good coder. In my first year coding class with a certain professor, you probably know his name. I probably won't say his name here. I would all for the assignments. I probably knew what I was doing until like the third assignment. Then by the time it got to like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, I just like got like my other friends, hey, can you send me your assignment, man? And then I would just like change like a few variables in there. Yep, now it's mine. And that's basically how I passed the course because like it just I did try it just wasn't for me. But anyways, I'm going on a rant right now. But
by the way, I think that's actually what podcasts are about, right? Like that's why podcast we were talking earlier on about like watching videos as a podcast. I think people like podcasts that are long form. Like for me personally, like when I see a good podcast I like it's like 2 hours long, I'm like, yes, get on a nice podcast, go for a nice walk, cook dinner, clean your apartment, whatever. So I think going on tangents isn't necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I think it makes podcasts more interesting. So So I think what I'm trying to say is don't be too hard on yourself for going on rants.
Oh, thank you, man. No, I'm always torn between like going keeping it just a little snippet because like I don't know, I feel like because some people tell me like, you know what, man, like I want to support you, but 2 hours, dude, I can't listen to all that. Or some people be like, no, make it longer. Like you just said, no, like make it longer. I want to get some good insight from this
The
guy.
most important, that's the thing. The most important thing, man, is making it interesting and making it insightful. That's why you might kind of notice that whenever I start talking and going on these tangents, I kind of let myself go nuts because I'm like, if it's interesting and I talk for like a minute, 2 minutes, people won't care as long as it's interesting. And B, I also try to make it in such a way that I'm trying to make it like relevant to the audience. So like everything I'm going through, like yes, I can talk about like dropping out of school and how like hard it was, but like okay, that's like me. Like who cares? I'm trying to say, okay, how can I actually take what happened to me and make it relevant and like help you? Right. So it's always about like how can you sort of add value to others. Which by the way is like one of my I was thinking about if I was to get a tattoo, what would I get tattooed? And it's too long, but that maybe just kind of speaks to how verbose I am. Which
You're
would be
gonna be the
like
Shutter Butter logo.
it would be get what you want by giving others what they want.
I like that. I'm always for that. Where would you have it? Like just
On my forehead. Thug life.
How, do companies care about that? Like if you have like face art, like face tattoos?
Oh, so I was listening to this podcast a long time ago, Bomani Jones, and he said that he actually would judge someone if they had face tats because he said that either he's questioning your decision making abilities or it shows that you have no desire to work in a corporate environment kind of thing. Face tats, I don't know, man. I think face tats is a lot. Like personally, I guess for me, like rationally, it doesn't like for me. I'm a big believer in meritocracy, which is of course that kind of doesn't like we'll always be biased to an extent. But I feel like if you can do your job and you're a nice person, like I kind of don't care about face tats. But I think I know it's subconscious too. Like if you have a face tat, someone's gonna be like, "Why do you have a face tat?" And it's a certain type. And the idea is that there's a certain type of person that would get a face tat in the first place. But I think society is coming around to that kind of stuff. So we'll see.
Slowly but surely. I've never wanted a face tattoo, but I've definitely wanted like some kind of sleeve. Like
What
just
would you
some.
get?
I would probably get like, oh, what would I get? Okay, I'm really big into climbing, and I want to climb Everest and just Kilimanjaro and Fuji, all the major mountains around the world. And I want to get like a different tattoo for like every mountain that I've climbed. And I also want to put like some kind of fancy stuff in there.
Mm.
I'm really into landscape, like cactus, mountains, like the southwestern United States kind of landscape. I'm always really interested in. That's actually the part of the logo for the Shutter Butter podcast. I've always been so interested in like landscapes like red rock, cactus. It just gives me a very adventurous feel, and I feel like I'm a very adventurous guy. So I wouldn't necessarily put like any words in there. There would kind of be more images that kind of feel more wholesome to me. I'm not about the whole skulls and all those like death, those sayings about like death and stuff.
That's interesting because I always think of tats in terms of like what would I get word wise, but image wise, like that could mean a lot too.
Yeah, for
I
sure.
like that. I
But
like
yeah,
that.
man. There's a few things I wanted to unpack a little bit. You were talking,
Unpack.
yeah, unpack.
I love that word. Okay.
So you were talking a little bit about, investing in yourself, like buying these books is no different than just paying for a $20,000 course. Cause we went to university. It's the same thing. Like we're investing in ourselves. And when I was growing up, my parents would always be like, no, don't buy that video game, or like, don't buy this, don't buy that. But then when it came to like education, it was just like, I want you to go to Harvard, I want you to go to Yale, I want you to go to Stanford, I want you to go to UCLA. It was like, I feel like for education, it's totally different. And that actually kind of brings me a little bit to my next point. How did you kind of how did you prevent yourself from staying complacent when you were going through with Atila? Because there's a lot of people who, once they start making money, they reach their peak, and then eventually they fizzle out, and then they kind of lose like respect and faith in their audience, because their audience is like, dude, what the hell, man? Like, bro, like where are you now? And then they sort of kind of forget about you. It happens with a lot of like content creators and stuff too, when they level off and just stop creating content. So how do you prevent that from happening and prevent being complacent?
That's a great question because actually before this podcast, I went for a quick walk, and I was actually kind of I was like doing like a mini pep talk slash therapy to my own self, being like, Tom, man, you need to really step it up because I feel like I worked pretty hard at Attila, but I feel like I could work even harder. And and actually, I think so. The question is like, how do you stay motivated for things that you don't have to do, right? When there's no external motivation for you to get something done. So when you go to school, The external motivation is maybe your parents or grades or getting a job. When your job is like not getting fired, a salary. But when you do a side hustle, when you do an entrepreneurship, you don't have to do anything. Like I don't have to like I had a meeting on Sunday and I said, "Oh guys, it's Easter. I'm gonna have dinner with some friends. Just cancel the meeting. Move it to Monday instead." We had the meeting on Monday, right? You can do that anytime you want when it's on your own company. And so I think one of the things I was trying to hold myself accountable, like Tom, like you need to like 10x whatever you're doing right now. And the thing about entrepreneurship is that you could always like maybe like if you have a job or with school, there's kind of a limit to how much you can do, right? But like with entrepreneurship, you could always be doing more. And so I think it's always like, okay, like am I
Rabbit
working?
hole.
Yeah, not even a rabbit hole. It's always like you talk about like climbing Mount Kilimanjaro, right? Like once you get to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro, or what's the tallest mountain in the world? Everest or Kilimanjaro?
Everest.
Okay. So let's say you get to the top of Mount Kilimanjaro. First of all, that's all you have to do. Like you got to the top, there's literally nothing else to do. Okay, but you can say, well, it's the second like biggest. Let me go for the biggest. Okay, so you go to the biggest, Everest. Okay, then you get to the top of Everest. Now what? You have to find a new mountain to climb. Probably have to find like either a metaphorical mountain.
You got to make sure you don't die while you're on Everest.
So no, you do it and then you don't die. Now what? You know what I mean? So but then with entrepreneurship is kind of the same way, which is that like you have to just kind of find new mountains to climb, and you have to keep yourself motivated when there's no one else to keep you motivated. So how do I do it? I think one is just thinking about the vision I have, right? So like right now, Atila is $0. Like we make no revenue. We have a bit of revenue coming in, but it's like I think $100 or whatever.
You guys make like a little commission on the people who give the sponsorships, though,
yeah.
right?
So we do have a scholarship. Shout out to Skateboards for Hope. Shout out to them. Our first customer, Betty. Appreciate the support, and we're trying to get more customers like that. And so the thing is, though, so what keeps me motivated is like I like a lot of different things keep me motivated. We can even talk about that, but I think one of the biggest things is just like I have a vision for what I want Atila to be, and it's like until we get to that point, I just have to keep going hard. And even when we get to that vision, I'm always gonna have another bigger vision, and I'm always gonna have another bigger vision. So it's always like what keeps me going, the future. The big opportunities in the future keeps
AI chips in your ears.
It's even bigger than technologies. Like I don't even think in terms of specific technology. I just think about in terms of humans and potential, right? It's like one of the goals I have for Teal is that like I don't want there to be a single student on earth that can say, I want to do this thing, but I couldn't do it because I couldn't afford it. Like when it comes to education, like if there's someone out there who's actually serious about improving themselves, like lack of money should never, ever, ever be the reason they're not doing it.
Dude, it sucks, but like I guess that's capitalism, and I like that you're one of the first people I know that's actually trying to tackle this problem, because like searching for scholarships, first of all, isn't easy, but not only are you making that a lot easier, it's also all combined in one place where everyone kind of who's looking for a scholarship can reach out to you, and everyone who wants to donate to scholarships, and even if they don't have enough money, they can give small scholarships for the greater good of making one big scholarship. So I think that's a freaking unreal idea. But so you obviously dropped some really good value there about like motivation and things like that. And honestly, I'm a big fan of your TikTok. I started paying attention to it. I think you started it like in the summer or something. No, maybe it was like the fall. I'm not sure when you started it, but I started paying attention, and you always had these book reviews, or you always had like some sort of motivation, something about the future. I think you had like something about pharmacy and AI a little bit too, but about the book ones, every time I listen to you, I can't help but feel a little bit more motivated to do something better. I just can't help it. Like guys, hop on Tomiwa's
at Tomiwa 1A. Follow me. Follow your boy.
Follow your boy, like right now. Follow your man, your boy, whatever you want to call him. I'm telling you, it just makes you want to read more. And this is actually the first year I've been reading like one book every 2 weeks or one book every month.
Appreciate that, man.
Yeah. But speaking of like that kind of motivation, how do you like motivate your team in Atila? Is it kind of the same concept, the way you motivate us on social media?
That's another great question. So the way to motivate a team, I need to release this video because we have so much content on our team saved up. It's just finding the time and the right place to post it.
Oh yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to post this for a while.
So one of the things I talk about with the team is the vision, right? Like the thing that, like I said, what keeps me so excited is that I see what we're trying to build, and I see that if we can, like, this will literally like change people's lives. Like, there's only really 3 reasons why people don't reach their full potential: health, lack of information, and money, lack of money, right? And so, let's say health is taken care of. We're very fortunate we have good health. Let's say you know what you need to do. Now, the thing that's holding you back is you can't afford it. If you just give someone, hey, I see you, I see what you can do. Here's 20 grand. You can literally change people's family. You can change generational lives. Like there's a kid right now somewhere in middle America, super bright, single parent household, poor, you know, but they're super bright, they're super driven. If they could just get a chance to go to a Stanford, go to a Harvard, or even just go to like a good state school but have their tuition paid off, and they could literally change their generation. Like they could be the first one in their family to go to university and change their entire generation's life, right? So that's what keeps me going. The fact that we can actually change people's lives. Now the question is, okay, how do I communicate? But that vision is in my head, and so what my job is to take that vision in my head and show the people on our team how we can get to that vision. I think another thing too that I try to keep in mind, and I kind of learned this from Gary Vee, is that because it kind of is at the end of the day, like I do try to create an ownership culture, but I do get the sense that people feel like it's my company, even though I try to make it seem like it's our company. The reality is that people will feel like it's my company. So it's also like, because people will be like, yes, I'm like, you can make it like this is your baby, but like for me, I'm just sort of helping you, or I'm just part of this journey along with you. And I tell them like I also try to basically show another. Sorry, to answer your question is like I always try to address what's in it for you, right? So when I'm saying, hey, let's do this for Atila, part of it, or maybe 50% of it, is like the vision of what we're trying to build. But it's not just what we're trying to build. It's like, here's how you could personally benefit by being part of this journey. And so I spend a lot of time with everyone on my team. I spend a lot of time, what do you want out of life? And again, and it's a big question, right? Sometimes I feel like maybe it's an even awkward question, right? It's like when you ask them, okay, what do you want out of life? Like forget, like, most people say, oh, what do you want to get out of this school?
What do you want to be when you grow up?
Or what do you want? How like some people will ask you like, oh, what do you want to get out of school or this program or this internship or this
like
job?
you mean those really deep but very generic questions, cliche like kind of questions?
So, but I'm asking like, what do you want out of life? And for me, when I'm asking this, I'm not asking this on a generic cliche. I'm asking because everything that we do is somehow helping us get to that point. And it's like, and a lot of times too, maybe like you're working at a company and it's like, I'm only working at this company, to be honest with you, so I can work it for a year, get it on my LinkedIn and go get something better. But I don't want to say that. So I'm going to say this other thing. It's like, that's okay. Like, let me know if that's what you're trying to do. Let me know, because I will actually help you get to that point, right? If it's a case where like, actually, I'm only working here for a year because I want to go and work at this other company afterwards, and I know if I leave after 6 months, it's going to look bad, so I'm just going to stay for a year. Hey, if you just want to stay for 6 months and you want to go do this, that's fine. Let me and you come together for the next 6 months. Let's like do some good work. And at the end of the 6 months, I will help you get that job that you want to get. Right. So like at the end of the day, and sometimes it's not even about getting a better job. It's about learning skills, developing, learning, making impact, connecting with people. So I really spend a lot of time thinking about, okay, what do you want to get out of life? Right. Not even just what do you want to get out of this job. What do you want to get out of life? And then how can I help you get there?
Exactly, dude. I think like a lot of people fear their bosses or are even like intimidated by their bosses, but I feel like 99% of the time that's not the case. People always say like, "Oh yeah, I'm gonna stay at Walmart for 10 years because I love customer service," or they'll make up some BS like that. But that's only because I think they're like afraid of saying what what their true goals are. And I think that's a really good point that you made, because as a CEO, as a person of influence in a certain institution, you want to help other people, right? You're not there to ruin someone's life. You want to help them too. And I think it's a really good point that you made, man. I think people would be really like stoked to work for you if you the fact that you just said that.
I appreciate that. And one more thing I wanted to quickly say, because you said something interesting about being honest. I think we have a corporate culture that doesn't reward honesty. The reality is, in a lot of corporate environments, there is a high cost to telling people the truth. Right? Someone does a presentation, someone has a meeting, you want to tell them, I think this meeting was not a good use of time. I think it could have been done more efficiently, et cetera, et cetera. It's actually not in your best interest to tell people that. It's in your best interest to just nod your head, pretend, and just go along to get along. Because nobody, you know what I mean. And so what I try really hard to do is I sort of take a bit of playbook from Ray Dalio, Bridgewater, Radical Transparency. But I say it's radical transparency with the splash of empathy, which is I try to really encourage people to, you can tell me anything. Like you can give me critical feedback, and I like, please. I mean, yet the thing is that we have a culture that is so that is so frowned upon to give people candid feedback. You have to actually have to beg and incentivize people to tell you the truth. But more importantly, too, especially with the deal with the culture we're trying to build, is it's not just tell me the truth, but like do it in a way that's like kind. Because I feel like there's kind of two cultures I typically see when it comes to like corporate communications. On the one hand, you have people that like everyone's very nice to each other, it's very polite, all that kind of
And
stuff.
then
But
there's the other extreme, right?
where people are being completely honest, but like it's just mean and it's very abrasive, and people are always on edge. And it's like, why can't we just find a nice balance where it's not like this where like everyone's all kumbaya, but like no one's being honest with each other. But it's also not like this where people are just like being mean. But it's like, okay, how can I create an environment where I can give you like direct feedback and critical, candid, blunt, honest, transparent feedback, but it's coming from a good place and I'm doing it in a polite way and I'm being empathetic about how I say it. And that's what we're trying to build at Atila.
That's that is some deep stuff, man. But yeah, I know my internship, one of the internships I had was a little bit like that, towards the side of, yeah, like there was critical feedback, but it wasn't necessarily coming from a good place. It was a lot of like when there's office politics and other things like in strained relationships kind of mixed into it, it just creates this whole ball of shit. But excuse my language, but um but yeah, you mentioned like another book that you were reading, and I wanted to mention this book because I think this is something you've probably already read, or I think you would really benefit from. Have you read Rise of Superman?
No, I haven't.
Okay, it's nothing to do with Superman at all. Okay, the author's name is like Stephen Kotler, I think, and what it is it talks about how your brain has all these happy chemicals like dopamine, serotonin, and some other stuff. There's like 8 of them. I can't remember them right now, but there's 8 of them. And going into this state of all these chemicals flowing in your brain is called flow. And when you go into flow, athletes do this too. This is how like guys like LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and other like pro athletes go into flow, because when they're doing their craft or they're fully focused, they can tune out outside noise so well, and they just stay focused. And then they're feeling very good. They're surrounded by good people. There's so many factors that put you in the state of flow. So do you think that, I'm sure your team has probably created like a really good atmosphere where you feel like you're in a really good state and you love doing what you do, like you said, right?
Yeah, that's a good point. And then so what was the question? Or is it just a statement?
Oh no, it was more or less just a statement.
Yeah. But that Rise Program, I'll go, maybe send me the link afterwards on on Facebook Messenger. I want to check that. It sounds like an interesting book.
Oh, it's okay. It's a little expensive, but
I mean, I might not buy it. I might not even read it, but I might read a summary.
oh, Blinkist will give you like summaries. The problem with these, like,
You have to pay for Blinkist, don't you?
yeah, you have to pay for it too. It's like $100 a month, and the problem is that like I feel like even if you read a summary, you're still you get a lot of insight out of it, but you don't get the whole. There's certain little parts of books that I really enjoy.
I mean, that's why I still read physical books, right? Like I'm Mr. Technology. I got I got all the devices.
But then you're out here reading books.
Because for me, also another thing too, like for me, books is not just about knowledge. It's also about like discipline. It's also like therapy in a way. Like just having like I'm on devices all day, just looking at physical, and also I retain information better, right? Like one thing I never really understood is people that listen to audiobooks at 2x speed. Because I'm always like, okay, you're reading this audiobook at 2x speed, but first of all, no matter, like I always say this, no matter how fast you listen to something, you will always be able to read it faster, and you'll retain more information. So when people like, I don't, again, I'm not judging. It's just an open question I have of like, when you're reading these books at 2x speed, what's your goal? Are you trying to have as many ideas hit
I'm
you as
guilty
possible?
of this, by the way.
But no, but I mean, like the thing is, I'm not even saying this from a place of judgment. I'm saying it from a place of curiosity, which is that when people listen to books at 2x speed, are they just trying to like have as many idea velocity, where they're just trying to have as many ideas hit them as possible, and just like something will stick, or do you actually want to just like go deep into a topic and like actually retain it more?
So I think it comes back to the issue of time. My younger sister and all my friends do this too. A lot of my friends do this too, especially if they're in lectures and they want to look at the recording because they've already seen it one time, or maybe the video is going really slowly on YouTube or whatever platform they're listening on. They want to speed it up so that it's like, okay, like get to the point. It's kind of like a hasty thing, like you're running out of time. At least that's how I always used to do it. Anytime I'd be listening to a lecture, I'd be like, okay, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point, get to the point. But look,
Yeah, but that's my point though. Like, what is the point? Like, the thing is that when you're studying for an exam, or like yeah, like for school lectures, when you're studying for an exam, yes, you just want to like somehow like just cover the material as quickly as possible, and then just go back for what you don't understand. But when you're reading a book, right? You're not. It's like that quote. I think it's Plato or some other smart person or old person, right? It's like you're not studying for a classroom. You're studying for life. So yes, you can get to the point of the book, but if you really wanted to get to the point, you wouldn't even read the book. You would just read a summary online, right? So like we're actually trying to what I always felt like is that when I'm reading a book, I'm reading to change my perspective on life. And the way to really change your perspective is to, to really soak in what the author is trying to say.
Absolutely, man. I like I am guilty of putting Audible on 2 times speed sometimes, just because I'm just like I gotta get to work. I need to absorb as much as possible, but it does nothing in the long run. Like I'm way better off I listen to it at normal speed, assuming the narrator was good. Because sometimes I get a narrator that I was just like, I kind of picture the voice for this being differently. Other than that, though, I would definitely like recommend reading a hardcover book. But let's kind of switch gears a little bit into Atila itself. So I know that Atila kind of screens the people who put up these scholarships or who invest a little bit into making these scholarships, and you also work together with some of the people like Skateboarders for Hope. Is that what the name is?
Skateboards for Hope.
Skateboards for Hope, and you kind of evaluate
Actually, can you link them as well? Like, let me give a little shout out to Betty. Maybe you want to like link it in
for
the
sure,
description.
Betty. For sure, Betty. I'd love to have you on the show as well sometime too. Yeah, we'll definitely put that in the description. But I like how you kind of work with these different people who are giving out these scholarships to kind of rank the different students that are there. So my question is, okay, have you seen this Office episode, Scott's Tots? Okay, have you seen it?
Yeah, well, have you seen my website? Because we have a scholarship called the Scott's Tot Scholarship, like a demo scholarship.
I looked a little bit on your thing. I saw a little bit stuff about The Office, but I don't think I saw Scott's Tots anywhere.
Oh, there's a Scott's Tot Scholarship on our website.
What?
Yes.
Okay, so for those of you that don't know, the Scott's Tot Scholarship, the Scott's Tot episode is when like 10 years in the past, Steve Carell or Michael Scott promised tuition for all these third graders because he just envisioned himself being like a millionaire in 10 years. And he actually had less money in those 10 years. So now these students are all grown up. He has to do a big speech and they're all doing like a dance for him and stuff. And he's like sitting there crying, like, yeah. And then he does a speech and he was like, I'm so happy for all of you. And then eventually he like breaks the news. And then he was like, you know what? I'm actually going to give you guys these batteries instead. And then they just get like more annoyed, but it's so funny to watch because it's just so cringe. Do you screen people so something like that doesn't happen?
So the way the Atila program works is you have to pay for the scholarship upfront. So every scholarship that you see on Atila has already been funded. It's like that Drake line where like, I'm going to retire and it's already funded. Yeah, like the scholarship on Atila, they already funded. So if you see a scholarship there that says $1,000, that $1,000 has already been paid for. And so that money, you will get that money.
That's crazy. So there's no Scott's Tots involved in there.
And that's exactly why we had that, because we wanted to avoid a situation where someone says, hey, I would love to give $1,000 to a student. And then 4 months later, yeah, how's that? Well, actually, about that, no, pay for it now, and they'll give to the students when the scholarship is deadline passes.
Man, that show cracks me up though. What's your favorite Office episode? Just out of curiosity.
I would probably say Scott's Tots, but also I have to be very honest. I'm not even like the biggest The Office fan. I just like The Office because I just typically just like the memes or a lot of these TV shows. I don't watch episodes. I just watch clips.
Okay.
So I'm more of a clips kind. Like it's like one of my favorite like characters or sketches, like the one where is it the CPR episode where like they had
Stanley?
Yeah. So I like clips. I watch a lot of the clips on YouTube.
Can you do a good Stanley impression?
No.
Oh, okay, I can.
You want to do it?
I'll try. I go to school that's way too expensive to drive my kid to. But on pretzel day, okay, I messed it up. But like, did I stutter? It wasn't that good. I can do a lot more. Like Kevin Malone, like the secret to cooking the chili is to undercook the onions. That's about as far as my talents go, but that's literally irrelevant. Kind of went on a rant there, but
Again, dude, don't stop saying you're on a rant. This is what a podcast is for, okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, man. I did have like kind of a few more questions. So going back into like kind of the motivational aspect of how you sort of went down the rabbit hole of Atila, who do you think kind of had the biggest impact on you, or what were some mistakes you saw other past leaders do that you're trying to avoid, or who'd you kind of learn from? I know it's a really convoluted question I just asked. It's like a 3-in-1 question.
That, first of all, that is a fantastic question. And also there's a lot of people to like, I like these kind of questions actually. There's a lot of, I think I'll start with my parents, my dad, my grandmother, my mom, you know. But I man, like one thing, there's a Charlie Munger quote about, he says something along the lines like he collects interesting stories. I feel like I collect interesting people. So when I'm on the internet, when I just see a Twitter account, a blog post, a founder, historical, a living, dead or alive, I just collect people doing interesting things who have interesting hobbies. Things happen. I'm like, I'm going to store that in my memory for later. So there's so many people that I learned from, and like even something as simple, like even something as simple as maybe the janitor that I used to work with, right? And like always used to show up every day 7 a.m. Always had, always very, very well dressed. It's like diligence, right? But I learned from diligence. Everything you do it well, So, but to make the question more interesting, I guess the question is like, who are some good people to like that I learned from, and what are the key takeaways I learned from them? Honestly, when I say so many people, like it's hard to say. Like I'll just say maybe who's top of mind right now. I think Oprah and Joe Rogan.
Oh, do you know? You already know Joe Rogan is what I'm is what's ringing in my ears.
Yeah, like anything. By the way, I want to stress again, like there's literally so many people I learn from, but it's one of those. It's like it's just so many people I tried to pick who came to my mind first. Like currently, I've been thinking a lot about recently. Oprah and Joe Rogan. I think for a couple of reasons. One is curiosity and humility. And what I mean by this is that a lot of people, Joe Rogan gets a lot of heat, but I think if you watch his old episodes, like this guy has shown a lot of growth. And I think he's one of those people that he's genuinely interested in the people who are coming on the show. So one of the things I've noticed about is, I don't want to say it's an American thing, but one thing I've noticed from a lot of people is that when they have guests on, they're not actually, they don't listen, they wait.
They kind of wait until they say something so they can transition into a new question, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I've never been a fan of that. I always try and like keep, like, obviously I have like a rough framework of where it should go, but the conversation does like meander a little bit, right? And that's natural. You want to keep that. I did make that mistake in some of my like earlier episodes where I did try and keep it like a format just because I was learning. But yeah, I totally agree with that, man. I'm all about just not being fake.
Mm-hmm. And so I think a lot of podcast hosts, sometimes they're not even that interested in the person they're interviewing. Like for me, someone like me, I just love learning from. I just love people. I like listening to people. I like learning from people. So when I ask questions, I'm like genuinely interested. I'm also thinking about the audience. And so I think when you watch Joe Rogan, when you watch Oprah, like when Oprah did Harry and Meghan, for example, like they're just like really interested and curious, and they ask good questions, and they don't interrupt, they don't cut the person off, and they're comfortable with silence. So like one thing I've noticed that when you ask, like I was telling one of my interns this the other day, but like one thing I appreciate about them is that when I ask them a question, they like act like you can see them pausing, thinking, and you can hear the silence as they're, and that is so rare. A lot of times when you ask people, people have this need to just immediately just fill the silence with just talking and blathering and just noise, right? Like very, and so when you're a podcast guest and you ask them a question and they're pausing to think, a lot of people are they jump the gun. Oh, like like they try to reframe the question, or they try to like, no, just let them think, let it marinate, let the point hit. So that's just like Joe Rogan and Oprah just came to the top. And also another thing for Oprah meant longevity. Like I think one thing about in this day and age of social media and content creation and algorithms and this and that, and people, content YouTubers saying they're burnt out, it's that Oprah's been in the game for a minute.
Exactly.
Since the 80s, man. And not just she's been like consistently doing very good work. And that one more thing I was going to talk about too is positivity, right? Like I think sometimes people can feel that like maybe you make more money or you'll make a bigger business by like by beef and shade and tea and all that kind of stuff. And I think it can work in the short term, but if you're playing a long term game, you have to like really be promoting like self improvement and positivity and all like the things that are cliche and corny, but we actually genuinely want. You have to be promoting that in an entertaining package. I think that's like the sustainable and authenticity. I think Oprah, man, Oprah and Joe Rogan, man, they're good at what they do.
I'm happy you said that, because that's kind of the approach I want to take, giving you good, true value while keeping a little lighthearted and funny throughout the way. And I like going on a few debates too, having like a little bit of funny. I'm not about like putting people down or talking shit about like other people, because I just don't think that's cool unless they really deserve it. No, I'm just kidding.
And you know, one thing I think maybe we can both learn from them is self improvement, right? So like one thing, I don't know if you already do this, but like watch back your episodes. Maybe like for example, like the light is in your background. Maybe you don't want to do that. You know what I mean?
One?
No, the curtains.
Oh, okay. So I looked at some of my other videos and the curtains, like I closed them, but then I was like so dark.
Yeah.
I'm moving soon, so this is all gonna change.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, but I was just trying to say like even like one thing is like what I'm trying to say is that one thing I think they do really well is you can see their growth over time, right? So like for me, when I do my podcast, I always try to see like what can I do better, and maybe you too, like maybe you want to see like ask better questions, make the comment like just how can we constantly improve? I think that's one thing I've also taken from Oprah and Joe Rogan.
Yeah. I definitely think that, having like a standard approach to staying consistent is really important, because if you put all this effort in one shot, you're going to lose motivation in the next day. That's why these content creators like stop. And that goes back to what I said. They kind of got complacent because a lot of times they put a crazy amount of effort when realistically they should have put a realistic small amount of effort, but stayed consistent with it long term. Because if you easily do that, that's just going to mess with you mentally, and you're going to burn out, just like some of these content creators did.
Mm-hmm.
And you brought up, I don't know why I'm thinking of this right now, but I just remembered like one of your TikToks where you talked about, I think it was like a lesson from the Barack Obama book, where one of the key lessons in there was not approaching the big dogs just like that. I think you got to start small. You got to use the internet. You got to use your resources. Start with people who are a little bit like in your realm, within arm's reach. I'm not going to go talk to Joe Rogan just yet, but can you kind of like give us a little spiel on what you've learned from the book, especially that point, and how that's kind of fit with Atila?
So I think the point you're referring to is when I said, if you want to start a social movement, if you want to make a change, and this is beyond social movement, if you want to make a change, you start bottom up, not top down. And what this means is that I'll use a very simple example of Atila, right? And you can extend this analogy to anything. If you have something that you want a lot of people to do, what some people say is like, man, if I can just get Oprah to co-sign my product, if I can just get Joe Rogan to tweet about me, if I can just get Mark Cuban, if I can just get Microsoft or Google to sign this contract, and I'm set, I'm good. And it's true. If you get them, they're gonna just open completely new doors for you. But 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna be that person, right?
Oh, I'd say like 99.9 times out of 100, you probably won't.
Exactly. And even if that will give you a jolt, right? That will give you a quick start. But what sustains it is the bottom up, the word of mouth, people telling their friends, all that kind of stuff, right? And I look at and so, I wish I made it clear that this is because I feel like people might I think this is way beyond just social movements, right? And the way that came to me is that when I looked at Barack Obama, right, I guess he's now kind of characterized as like a Wall Street establishment kind of politician. But when he came in, he really came in because of grassroots people going door to door. Same thing with AOC, same thing with Bernie Sanders, even same thing with Trump, really. Like a lot of these people that really kind of came, started from the bottom kind of thing. I think Drake is kind of the same thing too.
Oh yeah, man. The song.
Like music, man. Like a lot of people that kind of blow up. Old Town Road is the same thing, right? They kind of bubble. It's like this. It's like people like me and you, the individuals that build the rapport, and then that's how you build real support. Right, something like Quibi. I don't know if you remember what Quibi was.
Quibi. Why does that sound so familiar? Wait,
So
is he big now or is he still big? No, he was big at one point.
so
Or
Quibi is an app, and it was a social media app that basically share like 5 minute videos.
okay,
And people say the problem with Quibi was that they tried to go top down. So they tried to basically sign up a bunch of like big name celebrities, put out a lot of money in advertising, and then try to force their way with the really big influential people and sort of work their way down. Like this is also why I think that like now I think influencer marketing is like a huge field, because I think one of the best ways is that you could probably maybe get like a The Rock or like a LeBron or like a Cristiano Ronaldo to endorse your product. Or maybe you could just find a bunch of like maybe like small like high school, college basketball superstars, maybe small influencers with like 10,000 followers, pay a bunch of them to just promote your product. And then, or like Gymshark. I might be mistaken, but I don't think Gymshark was endorsed by like any like real quote unquote celebrity, right? They
oh,
stood off with,
TikTok is huge now.
and it's huge now. And so that's just kind of one of my philosophies in life. And the same thing I do with Atila too is that like I'm just trying to find small organizations to start, build our report that way, word of mouth, and then over time you can also talk into the big dogs, and then you may not even need to talk to them. They will come to your door, right? If you do a good job and if you do your craft well, then the top people or the sort of the big whales or whatever you want to call them will come to you.
Interesting. And what kind of, now that you've kind of garnered all this knowledge from this whole, I think you started Tila in, it's probably 3 years in the making, something like that.
I think so, roughly, yeah.
Yeah, 3 years in the making. What's like one piece of advice you would tell your earlier self, somebody who is afraid of societal nonconformance and judge it, like, yes, afraid of like societal, is that the word, societal nonconformance, and dropping out and starting their own business? What kind of like advice would you give to your past self now that you've learned all this stuff?
Be like Nike.
Be like Nike.
Think about it. What do you think that means?
Nike is a Nike.
Yep.
So shoe, okay, like that book Shoe Dog, I haven't read it yet, and I'm assuming you've read it.
I haven't read the book, but anyway, Nike, just do it, right? And so, one of my piece of advice would be like, and it's so true. People talk like, I feel like a lot of people during quarantine, I've been spending a lot of time like reflecting on like university, high school, what things I would have done differently. And most of the things you wish you would have done differently are mistakes of omission and not commission, which basically means things that I wish I had done this, right? So, and like even like reflecting on like the last years with Tila, it's the same thing too, right? A lot of things that I wish I'd done differently is not necessarily things that I wish I had done differently, but things that I wish I had done sooner or more of. So, for example, monetization. Like, there's no reason why it should have taken me that long. Like the business model Atila has now, which is basically it's free for students. Anyone can sponsor a scholarship on Atila, and they pay a small fee. I should have known. I should have thought of that strategy like 2 years. I should have thought that strategy from day one. But I was like, oh, but no one will do it. Just all the usual excuses that people make that sound valid but are really just an excuse. I made those excuses, and so I would have told myself, just go for it. And I think another thing, that's actually another thing, like a meta piece of advice about that advice is, you want to try and pick a business where you can experiment and iterate quickly, and the cost of experimentation is low. Which is that, some businesses, it's really hard for you to test out a new business model. With Atila, I just throw up maybe a pricing page. I tell a couple people, hey, here's this website, here's how much it costs. Do you want to do it? And you see how people react. And even if they say no, it's how they say no that you want to look at, right? So what would I have done differently? Everything is not, it's just, I would have, everything that I'm doing now, I would have just done it sooner and more. So which goes to say that all these ideas that you have in your head, you just need to start doing it now. And, and that's why, like, with all these motivational speaker people, I'm like, it's like the more, like, that's why I've kind of stopped watching a lot of motivational stuff. Cause it's like, the advice is always the same. There's a thing, there's like even for you, Shoaib, like there's something you need to be doing right now. You know what it is. You deep down know what you need to be doing right now, but you're not doing it. And it's not a question of motivational videos. It's just like, you just have to do it. And maybe there's a string of words that and there's definitely a way I can probably put it in a very nice, poetic, motivational, yeah, and yell and do to make you. But the reality is, you just have to do it. At the end of the day, there's a thing you need to do right now that you have a goal. There's a thing you need to do right now that's going to help you get to that goal. You're not doing it. You need to do it. Simple, period, end of story. Do it.
Is that speech going to be on your TikTok soon?
Dude, I like how you keep bringing up my TikTok because this kind of stuff is good because it always helps me like okay like because I think with like obviously with my social media following, right, it's like it's not I'm not like a huge person on social media, right, but you know of course a couple of friends and family, a couple of people find me on the internet, they find me interesting, so I'm like, I wonder what who's actually out here watching the stuff that I put out. So it's good to know that a couple people are seeing my TikToks and stuff.
I'm seeing your blogs, man. Like I'm seeing your blogs, I'm seeing your TikToks. I think you put it on I think you put it on Facebook too. I think that's how I found it. I
Mm.
found some of at least like the soccer player ones, like oh, big ting, or the basketball one was really funny too. And I think you were wearing the same shirt, so I think you filmed them both in one day because you were just feeling like yeah, let's go. I'm starting a TikTok. That's the kind of motivation I like people doing because then it rubs off on me. And going back to your point about like just do it. Think like Nike because dude, no matter what you do, no matter what you want to do, no matter how much you think about it, you're never going to be 100% prepared. Like I'm still not 100 prepared to do this podcast, but I just thought, you know what? Like I have to just do it anyway. Cause like you could watch like Dwayne The Rock Johnson talking to the LA Lakers about his whole like motivational. Have you seen that video? The Dwayne Johnson talking to the LA Lakers about like his whole, he
I
has
think I have.
$7 in his pocket.
I think I have actually. I think I have. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's great video, great guy, great inspiration, very smart, great speaker. But you have to take action on that. And
Dude, I've stopped watching YouTube.
really,
I realized that what I need to be doing now is I just need to be in doing mode. Like even books, like even now, but even like with I still read books, but like blog posts and all that kind of stuff. It's like all I should be doing now with my time is executing. And if I'm reading very tactical, actionable, specific advice, right? So for example, like right now, one of the things I spend a lot of time is like email prospecting, right? How do you find people to want an email?
oh, like
So,
like SEO, email marketing kind of stuff.
but it's more like more targeted, like more for direct sales. So not like mass emails, but like you, I know you would need our product because of X, Y, and Z reason. How do I write a cold email? And none of those like watching videos that's like motivational and it's like I want very tactical, practical, actionable advice. So like and I say I've stopped watching YouTube. I'm trying like last week I think I watched only one day I went on YouTube kind of thing. So I'm trying, but like really just cutting down on all the consumption stuff because at the end of the day it's all about discipline and just doing.
Absolutely. Because like you have to just do it. There's no clear cut, there's no like one size fits all, like one off the shelf solution that's just gonna work for you. You're not just gonna wake up one day. Like this shit takes time, right? Like Atila took a few years and you're just starting to monetize it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But still that started from taking action, which
And I
is
was just, sorry, I was thinking another thing too that like you also learn more by another thing I thought I've been thinking about recently is that you actually hmm, I'm trying to I'm trying to think of if what I'm saying is just because of the way I learn or it's actually generalized advice that can apply to more people than just me, right? Because I'm trying not to give advice that well just because it worked for me will work for you, but I guess what I'm saying will apply for some percentage of the population, not 100%, but definitely more than 0%, which is you learn more by doing than you kind of do by like learning from others in a way. So what I'm saying is that a lot of things that you're thinking about doing right now, like podcasts, right? Like, yes, you can read more. Like, you can always read more and more blog posts about starting a podcast. Maybe read 5 blog posts. Find what they all have in common. No, I think I just thought of a new rule you could just make up. No more than 5. When you want to do something, read 5 articles about it. After that 5, just do it. Cause I feel like after a while too, you just go to like you just start like procrastinate. Like you actually procrastinate by reading about how to do something than just doing it.
dude, it's just like working out, man. Dude, I used to always like the whole how do I gain muscle and like lose fat? How do I like do this and do this? But then I would get like so far down the rabbit hole that I'd be like, oh, I need the answer. It's just like if you watch like a murder mystery or something, you want to know what happens. But working out, I used to do this all the time. I used to be like, man, like I used to just get so much like conflicting advice that it would just like I would just make no progress in the gym because I keep thinking like I would be on my phone like, oh shit, like where's that blog again? Because I didn't commit to something and I just had this overflux of information where it just was not helpful. Whereas if I had been a little more consistent and stopped reading and just taken action based on the little bit of information that was common amongst them all, would have been way more beneficial for me.
That's a good point.
Yeah, man. But where can we find you if anybody like kind of wants to reach out, they have any questions about education, if they kind of want to bitch about the cost of high tuition with you, where can we find you, or where can we find Atila?
At Tomiwa1A on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can email me to Tomiwa@Atila.ca. Yeah, I'm always down to, like, I love talking about like ideas. I left on my ideas really.
And people can find you at Atila.com and message you on your TikTok whenever, right?
Atila.ca. I actually messaged the guy who owns Atila.com, and he said it's not for sale right now, but I'm optimistic. I think I can buy it soon.
What's Atila.com? What's he doing?
So he's actually a jeweler. So the thing about Atila is actually a Turkish name, right? So there's actually people like in this world that are named Atila. And so apparently the website was dormant for a while, and then Atila, he's a jeweler in LA. And so he actually bought the website like recently, he said, for a lot of money, and he says he plans on using it soon. So we'll see. But I think I think somehow the universe is going to work together to help me get that Atila.com domain name.
So Atila is a Turkish name.
Yeah. So there's a guy named Atila right now who owns the website Atila.com, and he says that he's going to use it for something. But I think I can get him to give us the website, maybe for an amount of money that we can pay him.
That's I hope so, man. The .com makes a difference. But
I've been thinking recently though, like, well, why though? Why can't we just have Atila.ca and use it for everyone in the world? Like I think like soon, I don't know when, but I plan on, of course, like I've always said, Atila is going to be a global company. So it's not just going to be for Canadians. And I'm actually curious to see how far we could take Atila using the .ca domain name.
Bro, the guys in the US, in the United States, going to like private school and stuff, you already know that they're paying hefty tuitions. Like more than, like I think it's more than what we paid.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. It definitely is.
It's pretty messed up. But how did you come up with Atila? I forgot to ask that.
What do you mean?
Like for you, where did the name Atila kind of?
Oh, okay. So my dad's nickname in university was actually Atila. And then because I was looking for something that was easy to say, easy to pronounce, and long tail friendly. And long tail friendly basically means if you typed in maybe like Young Money podcast, you probably get a lot of different links, both for Young Money, YMCMB, all that kind of stuff. But Atila is one of those words that is easy to pronounce, it's easy to say, and you don't see it very often. So there's not a lot of like search competition for that word.
Really, I like it. It's got a nice ring to it. Atila.
Yeah.
Like Tomiwa, Atila. Let's go. Yeah, man. It was so good to have you on. I think you really shed some good light on the education system and also your journey on starting your own company. So again, all his links are in the description. We'll link a few of the books and other things we talked about in there. If you ever want to reach out to him, you know the drill. All the stuff is in the description. So yeah, Tomiwa, thank you again so much, man. I'd love to have you on again in the future if you ever want a friendly debate on here.
Appreciate it.